get started. Um, and then people will filter in and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
So welcome everybody. My name is Courtland. I'm with the Folia Health team, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be here with Lauren. Before we get started and jump into all things kidney-friendly cooking and recipes, I wanted to give a little bit of background on Folia. So we are a comprehensive app where you can track everything you want for autoimmune or other chronic conditions. This includes symptoms, treatments, diet, exercise, stress level, daily activities, and so much more. We're free to use. We will always be free to use. You have the option to opt into research, and we'll actually pay you for tracking regularly, just your day-to-day tracking. So Folio was inspired by our founder, Nell's mom, who diligently tracked her Nell's brother's rare condition, CVID. It was through her mom's tracking that they ended up realizing that her brother's infusion treatment was actually working, but it was just the frequency that was a little bit messed up, needed to be adjusted based on his symptoms. And so she was able to advocate for her son based on the data that she collected on her own. And they were able to adjust the treatment, and he was, able to get so much better. And that's kind of what inspired Folia to become this digitalized version of what Nell's mom put from pen to paper, and we're put it all into an app. Being digital means you can track anywhere, anytime, and Folia will show you insights and trends about your health as you start to collect it over time. So in the Folia app, you can track things like diet, obviously a big component of what we're going to be talking about today. And you can see how your diet affects your symptoms for whatever chronic condition or kidney disease that you are dealing with, which obviously leads us to our main event today, kidney friendly recipes. We're so excited to have Lauren back again. We had a amazing Instagram live with her last week, so if you were there, thank you for joining us again. Hopefully you made those peanut butter balls. It's still on my list. But if you missed the last one, be sure to look out for the recording. It's on YouTube and all that. But she is a certified specialist in renal nutrition. She's worked with patients with IgAN, CKD since 2010. So we're really excited to have her. If you have submitted questions beforehand, we're going to answer those at the end. If not, feel free to use the chat. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Lauren.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Courtland, and thank you very much again to Folia Health for having me. As Courtland had mentioned, Folia Health really is about tracking your symptoms and being that active participant in your care. And that very much aligns with my mission with working with individuals with kidney disease. As Courtland mentioned, I am a renal dietitian, and I specialize in kidney health and have been doing so since 2010. One second, I'm having a hard time forwarding my slides all of a sudden. Okay. There we go. So yes, so as Courtland mentioned, my name is Lauren Levy. I do run an insurance-based private practice where I see patients with kidney disease all day long, all forms of kidney disease, from early stages to late stages, as well as kidney stones and other rare diseases that you may not have fully impacted kidney function, but there's definitely a reason to be more proactive in your care. So today we're going to be talking about kidney-friendly cooking, and I wanted to make sure that in case you hadn't joined our webinar prior, that we started by reviewing some key concepts of the renal diet, as well as healthy cooking techniques. And then we're going to jump into examples of recipes of breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and dessert. And as Courtland had mentioned, if you didn't see the IG Live, jump on either my Instagram or Folia's Instagram. You can see the recording, those peanut butter ball recipe I did include in this webinar. And actually that was my snack right before jumping on here because I made so many in preparation for last week's IG Live, and they're wonderful. So let's get started with nutrition management. The idea of the concepts of what is important to me and my kidney health. Each person has different aspects of sodium, protein, potassium, phosphorus, all of those things that apply to them. And we really want our labs to be our guiding light around that. We're going to talk about each of these individual factors of nutrition and give you some tidbits so that you on the other side of the screen can say, okay, this must be important to me. And then as we look at concepts of meals, that you can then take this individual, what is important to me, and apply that when deciding what to eat and make for dinner. The first thing we want to start out with is sodium. Sodium is one key component into kidney health. Sodium works in our body to help reduce, by following a low sodium diet, we're reducing our blood pressure and helping to control blood pressure and reduce swelling. We do, no matter stage of kidney health, we're looking at a restriction of less than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. And often we talk about sodium and salt as interchangeable. And by following that salt restriction, it can also help any type of diuretic or water pills to be more effective. In the US diet, or the standard American diet, the most common forms of sodium or salt come from restaurant food and processed food. And so oftentimes, by limiting the number of times we go out to eat, and looking and reading through our food labels or menus ahead of time, we can really impact our ability to change from a high salt meal to a low salt meal. The other thing about sodium is sodium and fluid go together, and fluid needs are very variable. In the early parts of CKD, many times you're told to drink more, and then at later stages in kidney disease, your physician may tell you that it's time to restrict how much you're drinking. And so you really want to work with your healthcare team to understand if a fluid restriction is something that is important to you and needed in your goals. Nope. The next thing we think about in a kidney-friendly diet is protein. Protein is used throughout our body as part of muscles and enzymes and bone and hair and hemoglobin, and it is quite the contentious piece of what is important to me for my kidney health. Dependent on your stage of kidney disease, is going to determine, do you need to restrict or do you need to add more to your plate? We can get protein from both animal and plant sources, and it is recommended that we really stick to our stage of kidney health when deciding how much protein to put on our plate. And we'll talk about that in a subsequent slide, I promise. But on the right side of my screen here, I want to draw out and highlight that it's more than just chicken, fish, beef, pork, and eggs that we get protein from. We also get protein from beans, nuts, legumes, tofu, peas, whole grains, things like that can be a part of a kidney-friendly meal. There is a debate on protein and kidney health, and that debate is plant or animal and which is best. Research shows that when switching your intake to at least 50% of the at least 50% of our daily protein to animal protein, that we can reduce the risk of progression. Animal protein generally is higher in protein. It does contain cholesterol and is lower in fiber than plant sources, but cold water fish tends to be very high in omega-3s, which is our healthy fats, and that is a great addition. So there is not this is where an animal versus plant becomes your personal what's best for me. Plant proteins are really great because they're high in fiber. They are low in cholesterol and saturated fat. They're generally lower in protein, and so you can eat higher quantities and still have that as part of your kidney-friendly diet and feel full. And they have a lower acid load, which it makes it easier for the kidneys. Now, these are the protein recommendations based on the stage of kidney health. So what you want to do is look at what stage of kidney health you identify with and hone in on the screen on what is important to you. And you can see that stages 1 and 2 have moderate protein intake of 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram ideal body weight. And that is the similar amount to what's recommended in transplant. It's also important to know that this amount of 0.8 to 1 is also generally what is considered healthy for adults. And so it's not really a restriction. Where it feels like a restriction, though, is that the standard American diet, on average, we get 1.3 grams per kilogram ideal body weight in our day. And so if we're getting 1.3, but we should be only getting 0.8 to 1, that feels like a restriction. And then if you identify in stages 3 through 5, non-dialysis, that is even less at 0.6 to potentially 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight. And so it's the stages 3 through 5 that become restrictive. And then if you're on dialysis, this is the place where dialysis is doing the work of the kidneys for you, and you actually need to increase your protein recommendations to 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. And your dietitian at dialysis has probably told you or reminded you to make sure you get enough protein in your day. We do want to be cognizant of portion sizes of protein. This slide shows us examples of those protein portion sizes. You may have heard of the 3 ounces of meat being the deck size of cards, comes with 20 to 25 grams of protein. Whereas our beans, tofu, lentils is about a half cup serving or a half of a baseball. And it only has 8 to 10 grams of protein. So portion size can be important, not just identifying, is this a protein source or not? Because oftentimes the portion sizes we see on our plate when we get it from the grocery store or we get our meat or our portion from a restaurant is much larger than that deck size of cards or that half of baseball. And so it's important to be able to identify, okay, not only am I eating protein, but is this more than I need, or am I right on target? Potassium is also another nutrient that we look at in kidney health. And according to the National Kidney Foundation standards that were updated in 2020, we really are only trying to overtly restrict if a high blood potassium is seen. And so it's important to understand in general what is high, but not to overly restrict your food choice, because potassium can really help to manage blood pressure. We want to also think about preventing constipation, as potassium is removed from the body in a bowel movement. So if you need to be on a potassium restriction, reading food labels and looking for potassium additives, choosing mostly lower or medium potassium choices is a good choice, and limiting leftovers of high potassium foods where you may eat a high potassium food day after day, leading to a high blood potassium. And then when it comes to phosphorus, we really, again, we try and only start to restrict when needed. There is not a daily limit necessarily, because phosphorus is not mandated to be on the food label. And so it's really hard to try and track. And I very much encourage my patients to not track phosphorus, but instead to read your food labels and focus on avoiding additives of phosphorus. On the right side of the screen, you can see examples of added phosphorus in foods. This is not a complete list, but this list is a way to give you an idea. You are looking for the 4-letter code PHOS, and that will help you to identify, is phosphorus in my food? And you're going to find phosphorus additives in the ingredient list of the food label, not necessarily where you see sodium and calories and protein. We really want to focus on general health. We are much more than our kidneys, regardless of what stage of kidney health you're in. We're so used to going to a doctor for a specific organ system, but really when we are talking about nutrition and lifestyle, we are talking about feeding our whole body and whole health. So you want to be getting at least 5 servings of veggies and fruit in a day. I usually recommend to my patients starting at 1 cup per meal. For women, it's recommended 25 grams of fiber, and for men, 38 grams of fiber, which is a lot of fiber, much more than we generally get in our standard American diet. Limiting alcohol, choosing fermented foods to help with gut health, and getting a variety of colors on our plate can be very good overall healthy kidney health, heart health, blood sugar health, weight management health, very important for everyone, as well as including healthy fats that are high in omega-3s can be really helpful. And what I think about are things like chia seeds, walnuts, as well as animal products like our tuna or salmon. So you really wanted to attend today's webinar to talk about cooking. I did spend that information making sure that we know where we are when we're thinking about our cooking techniques and what to put together. But we really want to, with kidney focus and general health focus, follow the following cooking techniques and meal planning ideas. Avoiding red meat is important for our hearts as well as our kidneys. Limiting deep frying is also very important. But it's good to know that you can choose steamed, baked, grilled, sauteed, microwaved foods and cooking methods. And you may even want to consider when sauteing, using that little bit of fat, olive oil, avocado oil, olive spray. As the pan gets hot and you think, oh gosh, I don't want my food to burn, I need to deglaze my pan or add some more oil. In place of adding oil, consider adding a little bit of water as a way to deglaze your pan and keep your overall food lower in fat. Choosing in-season and local food can really help to reduce food cost. You do not need to feel that you need to spend more money than you can afford and in excess just to get healthy food. Choosing in-season produce is a great way to reduce cost, and it does not need to be organic. I also recommend many times to choose frozen foods, as frozen foods are just as nutritious as fresh, and you just want to be sure that when choosing frozen food that you're not choosing foods that have sauce in them or that you read the food labels, because that's the only time you might get an additive or sodium. But if you're picking up frozen berries or frozen broccoli, inherently in itself, it's all going to be very kidney friendly. And then remember that you don't have to overdo this. Raw is fine. You can just cut up a pepper and eat a pepper. It doesn't need to be sauteed or grilled or done anything fancy. You can simply make it easy and convenient for you. In general, here are some ways that you can reduce sodium when cooking. Looking at food labels and choosing foods that have no added salt, choosing fresh foods, and rinsing canned foods before using. Avoiding adding salt in the water, and using a plethora of spices that can really add a lot of flavor to your food without the salt. You can use any spice that you would like as long as it doesn't contain salt. And when eating out, here are some tips in order to try and reduce the sodium and help with general health. And so reviewing menus ahead of time, especially if you only venture to a few places, is a really great way to make that choice ahead of time, to make a kidney-friendly choice, avoiding the bread and considering having sauces and dressings and dips put on the side of your food and then adding it back with what you like can be extremely helpful when making a kidney-friendly choice. And when thinking about kidney-friendly cooking, I would be remiss to not include meal planning. Because when we make any form of healthy changes, it is an active thought process, which means we need to have a plan. That plan doesn't need to be fancy, doesn't need to take a lot of time. It can have all of your favorite foods in it, but without taking 5 minutes to predetermine what your plan is, you will by default make a less healthy choice. And less healthy choice sometimes to me means walking into your kitchen and going into the cabinet and pulling out the crackers or having some toast and not even remembering to think, hey, wait, I've got those peppers in the refrigerator. So I always recommend to my patients, plan for the day or the week ahead, write it down, include the opportunity for indulgence or ordering out, because it's unrealistic to expect yourself to be perfect. Perfect is not what we're looking for. Consistency is. Remember, when making a healthy change, to buy wisely. And what that means is don't buy more food than you need. A best laid plan is wonderful, but will you be tired at the workday and not fulfill it and then have to throw out fresh food? Food wastage is not what we want. So be realistic with what you can handle. Include leftovers so you don't burn out. Focus on veggies on your plate, and make sure to build a plan for success. And that really means be realistic with yourself and what you can do in that week, because that week or that day is not necessarily the same from one to the next. And there are going to be some weeks that you kick butt and some weeks that you're just getting by. Ultimately, regardless of what you choose, you want to focus on this balanced plate. Half of the plate being from veggies and fruit, quarter of the plate being from protein, a quarter whole grains, and then oils sparingly, and water is the best choice when possible. So let's break down our recipe review. Okay, we're going to do some breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then snacks and desserts. Breakfast, we tend to eat some of the same or similar foods. And so I try with my patients to focus on quick on-the-go meals for breakfast. This yogurt and berries recipe is great because it's got 3/4 of a cup of unsweetened plain yogurt, 1 cup mixed berries, a 1/4 cup unsalted chopped walnuts, which has got your healthy fat, protein, and omegas in it, as well as 2 tablespoons of chia seeds that will add some protein, omegas, and 10 grams of fiber. So this meal in general is going to add someplace in, depending on what berries you use, the 12 to 16 grams of fiber in this meal, depending on what type of yogurt you use, if it's dairy or non-dairy. With the nuts in addition, this meal would probably land you at 12 to 23 grams of protein per serving. And if you have to worry about potassium, mixed berries are a low potassium choice. The walnuts are on the lower side of potassium, and this can fit well within a potassium restricted eating pattern. Another real quick option is just peanut butter toast with berries. 1 slice of bread, 2 tablespoons unsalted peanut butter, a cup of strawberries, 1 tablespoon of hemp seeds. And if you're not familiar with hemp seeds, they're little white, soft seeds that that mush and don't have much taste. And you can see them on this picture. They actually, chia seeds have a crunch and they might roll away. Hemp seeds, you're not even really going to notice they're there. I like to add cinnamon on mine in place of a jelly or a jam. And this, the way that this is written protein wise, is about 13 grams to 15 grams of protein for just this one slice of toast with berries. And then the last quick and easy breakfast is an overnight oats recipe. Overnight oats seem to be trendy these days, and they're quite delicious. You can change your overnight oats recipe to meet your preferences, but ultimately most overnight oat recipes bases are a half cup of oats, a half cup of plant or animal milk based on your preferences, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. I put a half cup of blueberries, a half teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 1/4 cup unsalted pecans. If you want to add some maple syrup to sweeten it up, you can. I like to, after I have those berries and the other fruit sitting in there overnight, you can either eat it straight from the refrigerator or heat up. I then like to top again with more fresh fruit on top of that. And so that's why I have that half cup of blueberries in the recipe, and then I usually add another half to get to my full cup in that meal. Oh, and then we want to always think about our opportunity for something a little bit different. In here, I put a tofu scramble. And a tofu scramble can be a great way to get some protein in. This recipe feeds way more than one. You could, if you prefer eggs, you could sub out eggs for this. But what you're looking for is to get your cup of veggies in with a wonderfully seasoned tofu or eggs. So I think of this as more of a weekend breakfast, whereas the other options are usually a midweek breakfast. The other nice thing is this is great for leftovers and can be really good if put together as a breakfast burrito. Lunch is another opportunity for simple. And we don't want to overthink if we don't need to. A hummus sandwich can get us enough protein to fill us up and be quick and easy. This example here has 2 slices of whole wheat bread. The bread in this picture was actually low sodium Ezekiel bread, 3 tablespoons of hummus, a 1/4 cup of cucumbers, a half cup of butter lettuce. You could add red peppers, you could add tomato slices. And if you wanted to include an animal protein or to keep you a little more full, if you're concerned about that, a slice of low sodium Swiss cheese paired with a cup of grapes is a nice, easy, convenient, kidney-friendly lunch. As well as we don't want to forget about salads. I feel like salads are a wonderful option that many times we think of as a side dish and not the main event. And when we do think of the main event, oftentimes I get the feedback of, I can't live on salad. We want to make sure to dress up our salad. Include more than greens. Don't forget things like nuts and seeds and vinegar and whole grains like quinoa. This recipe is got some cranberries, apples, unsalted walnuts, as well as a homemade dressing. This dressing is not, the vinaigrette dressing in this recipe will feed more than this salad, so you don't want to pour the whole thing on that salad. It's not what it's meant to be, but it's a great option and low in sodium. And chickpea salad is one of those recipes that I love to work with people on because I get usually a little bit of the side eye, like I'm not quite too sure. And I get a lot of positive feedback from my patients. The picture shows this as chickpea salad sandwiches, but I often use and recommend chickpea salad as paired with celery and peppers and cucumbers and carrots as a dip, or with some crackers, as well as you could just do it over greens. And so you can see in this recipe, it's 1 cup of chickpeas, 2 tablespoons of vegan mayonnaise, 1 teaspoon yellow mustard, a quarter red onion or yellow onion, a celery stalk diced, and pepper to taste. You can make this any way you would make tuna or chicken salad. This is more of a flavor and texture of a tuna or chicken salad than it is of a egg salad replacement. And so personally in mine, I also like to add fresh dill. And I also like to, in addition, add some carrots too that are chopped up. But you can really make this as a substitute for whatever way you make tuna or chicken salad. Just in place of the tuna or chicken, you sub in the chickpeas. And this holds in the fridge for several days. And so this is one of those places where tuna salad or chicken salad for 3 ounces, maybe about 20 grams of protein. For the same thing, this would be about maybe 10 or so. And so it's a lower protein option, and you could eat more and meet your needs. Broccoli cashew stir fry is a great option for dinner that can be convenient and make really good leftovers. Many times when I work with people that are plant curious, I'll call them, and are kind of like, how would I actually eat more plant-based? Stir fries are a great option because we naturally consider them as part of a stir fry as veggies. You don't necessarily have to do tofu if tofu seems a little far out for you. And cashews are a great opportunity to mix it up. So in this recipe, I used 2 cups of broccoli florets chopped, a bell pepper, 1 cup unsalted cashews, and 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos. If you are not familiar with coconut aminos, they are a low sodium option for soy sauce. Yes, soy sauce has a reduced sodium version, but that is not actually low in sodium. This coconut aminos is a much lower sodium source. You do want to read the food label because just like anything, there is one brand that is higher in sodium than others. And so you do want to check the food label to make sure that your coconut aminos are lower in sodium, but they generally will be much lower in sodium. And you can add this with a little sesame oil, and consider that sesame oil that you're sauteing it in to be a flavor point, right? We're not pouring gallons of sesame oil. We're just pouring a little bit for flavor and to saute, and you can always re-add a little water in order to steam and cook and deglaze that pan when you're cooking at high heat. And then you can add white or brown rice, whichever is your preference. 1 cup of nuts is about 16 grams of protein. And so you will definitely I misspoke. 1/2 cup is about 16 grams of protein. And that's the serving, because this serves 2, that you would get from this recipe. Now, if you're not fully down with being 100% plant-based, it's always good to know, where are my safeguards? It's unrealistic, Lauren, that I am going to want to eat fully plant-based. I want to know some of the things that I can do that are inclusive a little bit of protein and in those portion sizes, or meat in those portion sizes. This recipe is for salmon. It is low in sodium, and I got it off of the American Kidney Fund Kidney Kitchen. And you could serve this with a cup or so of broccoli or asparagus, and some rice or quinoa would be a great way to do that. I'm assuming that these salmon steaks are about 3 ounces, which would be 20 grams of protein. And so you just want to try and estimate. You can look at the portion sizes from our webinar earlier in this webinar. Or sometimes if you get pre-frozen salmon steaks, it will say on the food label how much protein and how many ounces the meat actually is. And of course, salmon is high in omegas, which are heart healthy. Another recipe that you can make more plant forward by adding some zucchini to our turkey burger and putting it over greens, but still allows for an opportunity to have some animal protein, is in this low sodium turkey burger recipe. You can use 1 pound of ground turkey and take a medium zucchini, chop the 2 sides off of the zucchini, and take your cheese grater and grate it. I like to pat out the water there, and you can add a tablespoon of onion powder, garlic powder, and then a teaspoon of black pepper. Separate the patties into 4, and you can either this recipe I broil in the oven. You can try to also put it on the grill as well. And then over greens is a great way to get in plenty of veggies to offload that acid load of the turkey, and still meet your kidney and overall health goals. When it comes to snacks and desserts, here is the peanut butter ball bite recipe from last week that we did on IG Live. It is a great option for snack and dessert. I have eaten it many times since making them in both fashions. And it's a nice combination of protein, of fiber, and healthy fat to be able to keep me full. And I always recommend it with either veggies or fruit on the side. And you actually get almost 5 grams of fiber and protein in this recipe this way. In general, with snacks, I really like to recommend mixed snacks, meaning a serving of vegetables and fruit, and paired with a healthy fat or protein. And these examples include very much that pairing option. So you can do unsalted peanut butter on apples or celery, or unsalted rice cracker cakes. You can pair cucumbers and carrots with hummus, the unsalted popcorn or low sodium popcorn, or just put nuts together with some grapes or a date or two. And consider just cutting up veggies and having them on hand and easy for you to pick up and munch when you're feeling like you want some munchies, and really may benefit from a little extra hydration. As well as you could pair those with some low sodium crackers. And I had to put in my peanut butter balls, having just 2 peanut butter balls, and like I said, pairing that with a cut up cucumber could be a great option too. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about dessert. You can see from this picture and my ideas, I am clearly a chocolate-aholic when it comes to dessert. And so I like to give my patients the opportunity to find indulgence in a way that feels good to them without overshooting sugar and calories. So I do not work for any of these companies. I don't own stock in any of these companies, but these are some of the products that I will use sometimes or recommend with my patients that are low in added sugar and still give you that dessert taste. I'd like to highlight the chocolate hummus, which sounds like that might be gross, but in fact is quite yummy because it's like a little less sweet brownie batter, as well as the chocolate sun butter has a lot less added sugar than what you would see in Nutella. And so it can be great with just a slice of bread, as a half sandwich or on celery sticks. Sorbet is going to be a lower potassium generally option than ice cream, and definitely lower than fat. Those Unreal candies have lower added sugar. And, yogurts many times can have more protein than you can handle in a snack if you are trying to decrease the amount of protein that you're eating in the day. But coconut yogurt generally has very little protein in it. So sometimes what you can do is just take an unsweetened vanilla coconut yogurt and throw in a few chocolate chips. And that can also be a nice dessert as well. Ultimately, your kidney needs are individual, but we want to think about whole health. Eating healthy does not need to be expensive or take a long time. You can see most of these recipes were very quick and easy. Adding veggies to your plate and is always a great place to start if you can't hang with changing the protein source. Making sustainable changes is much more important than perfection. And ultimately, I want you to enjoy your food. If you have questions or you're looking for help, you can reach me at my website, Happy Health Nutrition, or via email. I am always here to help guide people in kidney health, and we are an insurance-based private practice. So with that, I'm so happy to take questions. Cortland, if you can help me in
Yes.
guiding those questions.
I absolutely can. So we've gotten a few great questions in the chat and then some that were done before. Before we get started, thank you so much, Lauren. For anyone who hasn't tried chocolate hummus, it's so good and it is just like brownie batter. So I would definitely recommend that. So I'm going to just get started with the questions. Our first one that came in the chat is, which brands of coconut aminos do you recommend that have this lowest amount of sodium?
That's a great question. I like the Coconut Secret. It's a blue bottle. You can find it in most grocery stores. They don't have to be Whole Foods. It can be just regular grocery store, Target. And you can find it on Amazon.
Perfect. I believe that's what my parents have at home.
Yeah.
And then just like a general question about all the recipes. Are these applicable for peritoneal dialysis, stage 3A kidney disease, CKD4, transplant patients, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. All of these patients or all of these recipes are kidney friendly regardless of stage. Where you can make additions or subtractions, so to speak, is in to meet your protein source. So you'll notice that in the yogurt, I didn't pick a type of yogurt. If you need more protein, that might be where you might go animal protein yogurt, like a Greek yogurt that is higher in protein. And if you need less protein because you're trying to preserve kidney function, you may choose something that is cashew or coconut or a plant-based yogurt. And
Awesome.
so those type of recommendations were made throughout. So you can totally apply it. And they were all within the moderate potassium amounts. So if you have to worry about potassium, you should be good there.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Another question in the chat is, are chickpeas found at farmers markets?
That would be very individual. So you can find chickpeas under multiple names. So chickpeas or garbanzo beans. And you can definitely find them in every grocery store, both canned as well as dry. Whether your local farmer market sells beans or not, you would look for it dried. You would not look for it as a fresh plant source.
Perfect. Next one is, where can I find a list of foods low in potassium, phosphorus, and salt for CKD stage 5 and 6, or sorry, 4 and 5?
Yeah, so generally what I will recommend is the American Kidney Fund Kidney Kitchen has a great website that they've got handouts that are extensive instead of just a few things. And they have the actual amounts of those foods, and that's a great way to look at potassium, phosphorus, protein, or sodium.
Awesome. That's a great resource. Perfect. And then I'll keep going. I did want to say, in case anyone didn't see in the chat, someone did put in the chat as well. Will these slides be in an email later so you can kind of take a look at the recipes? And yes, Lauren's going to send that over to us, and we will be sending out a follow-up email, so you'll be able to get those easy peasy in your follow-up email. So keep an eye out for that. Next question is low protein, low salt, no dairy ideal for those with chronic kidney disease?
So yes, that can absolutely be a good choice. Whether that is the same choice somebody else chooses is different. It is a daily budget and how you use it for sure.
Definitely. Um, Ak-
I am sorry, it's extremely windy here, so that's all I can say. I apologize.
no
Um,
worries.
we were talking about oh gosh, what were we talking about?
I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, there was a lot going on. Water intake, the
Oh yeah,
correct amount of
water.
water over time.
Yes, so 64 ounces is a great place to start. If you don't have swelling or have not been advised to drink, to be on a fluid restriction. Some people with kidney issues like kidney stones or polycystic kidney disease may have been told to drink more than that 64 ounces.
Perfect. Awesome. That's great. It's always good to know how much, honestly, for me, I need to increase my water intake. I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people can agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. So, next question is, can you please discuss diet for those with high phosphorus levels? I know we touched on that a bit throughout, but maybe just a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. People who have high phosphorus should first look at the food labels that they are, of the foods they consume every day. Many times I will start with what is something that is in your routine every day, meaning non-dairy milks or drinks or snacks, because sometimes those, and they can be very healthy foods, have phosphorus added to them. As well as then we think of dark sodas, fast food, things like that. But it's generally usually food additives that are the biggest culprits when it comes to phosphorus.
Awesome. Perfect. Um, great. And also keep in mind, I know we're going through a lot right now. You'll also get the recording after this too, so we'll recap on all of that. Um, Next one is what foods can increase your EGFR and which can decrease your creatine.
Okay.
I said that right.
Yeah, so in general, there is not one specific food that can increase your GFR or reduce your creatinine. Your kidney function is, we tend to say, is not reversible. However, what we often see is in a right sizing of portions, and add an addition of fruits and vegetables, you can often see an increase in GFR for some people. And that is very individualized.
Awesome. Um, the next question is actually one I've seen quite a bit just throughout working the last a couple months in the chronic kidney space, and that is about seed oils. So it says, are seed oils a concern for those with CKD? What are your favorite legume recipes?
Legumes, yeah.
Legume recipes for
Yeah.
dinner?
Yeah, so that's kind of two questions. Seed oils is like all the rage to talk about now, right? Generally, we think of seed oils as, it's getting touted or getting the bad rap of being potentially inflammatory. Seed oils are an unsaturated fat, and although they promote vasoconstriction in our body, they are not necessarily unhealthy compared to other forms of fat, meaning saturated fat and animal fat is always going to be the least healthy option. Omega 3s on the other end that are found in chia seeds and walnuts and cold water fish, those are the really healthy good fats. And omega-6s aren't as great as omega-3s, but it doesn't necessarily make them inherently bad. Ultimately, it comes down to portion size and frequency of any fat, and we want to use oils in general very sparingly and very limited.
Perfect. Yeah, it's definitely been a topic of conversation. I have also in like the autoimmune space and all of that too. So,
Yeah.
definitely good to know. And then this is actually a really great question. What do you or do you have any recommendations for meals when traveling in the States?
Yeah. So, I like to be prepared. So do some research ahead of time. Understand where you're going to be staying and if you have access to a refrigerator. Sometimes it's really helpful to have snacks or some staples on hand that are kidney friendly. Um, Fruits and vegetables, nuts, things that are easy to have. And then look ahead and research ahead some fun places that you can have some indulgence in as well. And just do your best.
Yeah.
I did forget. You did ask me about legumes. So
Oh, yes,
legumes,
sorry. I forgot
yeah, yeah,
to.
yeah. No. That it was. So beans and lentils are a really great option for kidney health. They're a good protein and fiber source. Some of my favorite options, with beans is in things like tacos or a taco salad. I often eat them over veggies or on toast. Lentils, I just made a huge pot of lentils with mixed veggies this week, and ate them every way that you could over rice, over veggies, over greens. And in the winter months, one of my favorite recipes with lentils is a vegan shepherd's pie. And so if you have a potassium restriction and you need to worry about potatoes, you can always sub out cauliflower in place of those mashed potatoes that are typically on top of a shepherd's pie. But they're a great versatile option.
That sounds delicious. I love shepherd's pie, and I actually love that as a substitute. So I will have to try that out myself.
Yeah.
The last question, I'm not gonna lie, this one was actually from myself. One thing that I've been trying to do is make my own dressings because I know that's just like a lot healthier of an option, and I
Yeah.
saw that you put that on there. And so,
Mhm.
my question is, do you have any tips for keeping a homemade dressing good, like in the fridge?
Oh, that is a really good one. I think the best choice is really like taking it out first, right? Because the oil, like it's all solidified from being in the fridge. So giving it some time to breathe and giving it a good shake and making sure you got plenty acid or vinegar or lemon juice in it is a really good choice. I also am very basic. Vinegar, hit it with a little bit of olive oil maybe and some lemon juice, and I'm good to go.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah, that has actually been now my go-to
Yeah.
for dressing as well. But
Yeah.
I always have that problem. So you were talking
Yeah.
a lot about homemade dressings. I know that's a great option
Yeah.
for for people. So those are our
Yeah.
main questions. I think we had some really great ones. Of course, if you have any other, feel free to reach out to Lauren. We'll put all of her contact info in the follow-up
Mhm.
email. And I won't go back into Folia because, well, you popped off. I actually plugged Folia and
Perfect.
everything.
Thank you.
So I'm glad that you were able to join again, and we will be following up with an email with the recording, her slides, and yeah, we really appreciate everybody coming. I just popped down the code Lauren5. If you sign up for Folia, just use that code. And yeah, thank you so much, Lauren. We really, really appreciate your time and all of the amazing insights.
Yeah, this has been great and so much fun. Thank you for having me and happy cooking, everybody.
Yes, everyone should definitely try them out. There's a lot of like simple recipes, so
Mhm.
we'll be excited to try them out and let you know how it goes.
All right.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.